Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and you're probably wondering what today's title is about. And while I try to collect my thoughts, let's just dive in. So of course, as you know, if you know any Muslims, you'll know that it's Ramadan. If you are a Muslim, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem to you. And of course, it's a very different Ramadan, isn't it, with everything that's happening. Although, of course, there has been a lot of tragedy for lots of people all over the world, including Muslims, for many years. So it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, and obviously these things have happened in the past as well. But of course, now we're seeing a genocide live streamed. So we're on Ramadan day 9. So this is the 9th fast today. So hopefully it's something like that for you, wherever you are in the world. And the thing is that I am so grateful. I know I say this a lot, but I am so grateful. I feel so blessed to be a Muslim. And I look at people who, it's quite funny because I look at others who aren't Muslims or people who aren't religious, maybe that's what I should say. And you see people quite often sort of struggling, and I guess I'm talking about first world problems, but you see people struggling and, you know, you kind of wonder. And somebody said to me in the past, my daughter's going to Cambodia because she's giving back. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And I told that person what my perspective was on that. Because if you are someone living with white privilege and, hey, you just, there's an annual sort of, whatever country you're in, whether you're in the UK, and I'm sure you guys have it in the US as well, where there's some annual sort of show or something that has a charitable sort of end to it. So in the UK, for example, we'll have Comic Relief, for example. Is that still running? I don't even know. But the point is that this person was essentially saying to me that their daughter was going to do something charitable because, of course, and, I don't know what that person does normally, and who am I to judge that person? But just from the conversation that we were having, people do charitable things, I'm sure. And I'm not saying that this person didn't, but, this whole concept of living with privilege and then, doing a bit once a year and to do some good. And I just thought, I said to that person, actually, I didn't even just think to myself, but I said to that person that as a Muslim, apart from the fact that we give sort of charity as part of our faith, which is called xoxo, and it's 2.5% of your savings, you also are, it's very important. It's a very important part of our faith to give charity constantly. And I don't just mean sort of, there are many different types of charity, right? Smiling, being warm, being empathic towards people, listening, being good to your neighbour, etc. But then there's also obviously, donating to charitable causes. And certainly in the UK, Muslims have donated billions, literally. And this is done even in the cost of living crisis. And so I think that, and I may have mentioned this before, but I know people who are, they're great, they're good people, they're decent people. But, and again, who am I to judge anyone's heart? But you see them do certain actions and it just seems that they're somewhat constrained because they're always looking to build wealth in this life. And they feel that charity enriches them in some way, perhaps, or maybe they feel, and again, I can't speak for everyone, but they may feel that it enriches them in some way, or they're a good person because they're making a charitable donation or doing something for the community. But I wonder with sort of people like that who are very business orientated, whether obviously they have this mindset that it's, it's good for business as well, like corporate social responsibility. And so it's really interesting that I feel that sometimes people's hearts can be constrained, I guess, in that way. But for a Muslim, we are constantly looking to give to others, which is why, despite all the mainstream media, everyone that knows Muslims knows that, they're very generous and they're lovely. And of course, there are good and bad people everywhere in the world. I'm not saying that every Muslim is perfect, but the point is we all know that I don't know a Muslim that doesn't give charity. And I mean voluntarily, not just kind of the compulsory stuff that we have to do. And I guess the reason that I'm sorry is that I feel, as we look at the world and such dark days within the world, and let's just put the genocide aside for the moment. Let's put wars aside for the moment. When we look at earthquakes, tsunamis, hasn't a volcano just erupted in Iceland as well? And I think they put barriers up to protect residents, and those barriers are holding firm at the moment. But the point is, there are lots of natural disasters, and there are lots of good people in the world, of course, as well. But how do we cope? How do people cope with, like in the cost of living crisis? There's so many people in the UK that are now hungry. And I feel very blessed because I think when you are a Muslim or you are a person of faith, and certainly with one of the monotheistic religions, indeed, it's just a beautiful thing. And I feel so privileged to have been born as a Muslim and to appreciate my faith. And I do feel that this Ramadan is different, and I hope that, I'm always trying to grow, and I'm certainly trying to grow in terms of my faith and my knowledge. But I feel sorry for people that don't have faith, because life is very difficult. And let's face it, whether you have, faith or not, we're all going to be faced with challenges, and faith just helps you to better cope with those challenges. So it makes you more resilient, and it just, I don't know, it just fills your life with so much blessing. And when I think about time, when I look back at my own life, and I look back at the way time has whizzed by, I mean, certainly it feels as if these last sort of 8 days of Ramadan have literally just whizzed by. And it's incredible, isn't it? Because I've been saying this for a few years now, and I'm sure you've heard me say it on previous episodes, but I honestly feel that since 2020, the time has, like post-COVID, time has accelerated. And you look back to sort of, I don't know, when you were a child, and I don't know, just those university experiences and things, and it's just vanished in a flash. Now, the thing is, if you are just living for this life, it's quite empty, isn't it? Because essentially, like any living being, we're born and then we die. Now, of course, everyone aspires to the good life. And what is the good life? Everyone thinks, I want to have a great family life, want to have some sort of, occupation or hobby or some activity that, that we enjoy, whether that's with or without people or just a special person. And of course, everyone envisages doing this or doing these things with others, right? So family, partner, friends, on a yacht, in a beautiful house, on a beach. So everyone has those sort of dreams and aspirations. But of course, within that, and somebody may still want to be, helpful to humanity, doing whatever they're going to do, right? So it may be that they directly want to be, I don't know, a biochemist or a medic or a nurse, but equally they may want to have a career in whatever and donate to a charitable cause, and that's great. But when I look back at all the people that I've known, and we're talking about range of people, we're talking about clinicians, whether it's doctors, dentists, nurses, whether it is business people who have helped such organizations or charitable organizations, whether it is entrepreneurs who've become wealthy through an alternative sort of path. All these people, no matter how wealthy they are, they've got problems in their life, whether it's finding the right partner, finding love, being married, not being married to the right person, or having a sort of tumultuous relationship, whether their health is an issue, whether they're just searching and just feel unfulfilled. It's incredible, the nuances of the human soul. And if we don't know how to feed it, then, there's a real problem. And those are the people, I guess, that I feel sorry for. I mean, I've had the privilege of being born as a Muslim, but also not knowing at times in my life what that really meant, I guess. I'm not sure. We all go through phases in life, and it's really interesting because I heard a new Muslim saying the other day, obviously this is via YouTube, I wasn't there in person, and she was saying that, and I think it's some Hollywood person who's recently become a Muslim, and she was saying that she had all these questions as a Christian, and then when she read the Quran or started reading it, it just felt right. And she said people who are born as Muslims don't necessarily feel that. And I think, I don't know how true that is, to be honest. For me, I've always known that the Quran is the truth, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it hasn't penetrated my soul as much, in the sense that because I've been born into it. So maybe I have taken it for granted for a certain period of my life. But I feel that, the joy of having a faith is just unbeatable. And when you're building for the afterlife, it's like nothing else. George Harrison had a song, didn't he, when he was sort of going solo. And I think in one of those songs, he sang something about, I can't wait to meet my Lord. And I think this is the thing about the afterlife. It's what you're promised if you do good deeds. But in addition to paradise, where you get everything that you could possibly imagine and what you can even imagine, but it's more about being close to your creator, to your Lord, to God, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's just, I don't know, it's just so incredible. It's interesting because when you look at leadership studies, and certainly when you look at well-being studies, the studies show that if you are connected to a person who's kind of got your back, and you know that they're always going to be there for you, that you are going to perform better, you are going to just be more courageous in life. So that's one thing. And that's always made me, and I've spoken about this before, I think, that, as long as you have sort of, in terms of not feeling isolated, etc., as long as you have one friend, one person who's got your back, then you are okay. And then obviously psychologists, we all like to discuss attachment theory. Now, the thing is, what if the creator has your back? What if the entity that has your back is God? And that's what you have when you have a faith. So, and I've just been thinking about this literally now as I've been saying it, but in trying to articulate it. So I guess what I'm saying is that people of faith, and the studies that, this is what I wanted to mention, showed that people that have faith are more resilient when they believe that their creator is benevolent, though. So when they have a favourable opinion of God. And in Islam, it's certainly the case that God says, essentially in a hadith, I think, that I am as my servant thinks of me. So it's really incredible. I feel as if I've gone off tangent, but I think the point is that one is very blessed to have a faith, and I'm sorry for people that don't have one, because I think it makes life very difficult. Plus you lose out on the afterlife. Islam just makes total sense as well when you look at all the different faiths, and you can feel that it's true. It's just you feel that it's the truth. You do feel it in the depths of your soul. I do, and I'm sure other Muslims do as well. And I guess, I feel sorry for people that maybe that I've met in the past, and maybe I've not, I don't know, portrayed this adequately to them. So if you are listening to this podcast and you have known me in the past or in the present, or if you are new to this podcast and you're thinking, what is she talking about? Then please feel free to either check out any online resource. You can just Google free Quran. You could pop into a mosque and I'm sure they would give you a free Quran. Obviously, I think Quran is trending at the moment, or has been trending on social media, as people are just in awe of how the Palestinians are just behaving with such grace and dignity in such terrible times, in the darkest of times, in fact, and I just think, just look at the general population, I feel so sorry for so many people that are suffering through the cost of living crisis at so many different ages. You've got sort of children, you've got people at university, you've got elderly people. This is certainly the case in Britain. I'm sure it's the case in the States and other countries as well. And I think that, life is full of suffering. We do know that. But I feel that there is a higher purpose to life. And, we can achieve the status of being sort of a higher being. And being the best version of ourselves isn't just getting up in the morning, running, being healthy, etc., etc. It's about that spiritual contentment and spiritual fulfillment. That's why if you're wealthy, if you've got everything that you want, if you've got family, if you've got friends, if you've got a good job, if you've got status, if you're physically comfortable, and yet you're still yearning for more, you're still, you don't know what's missing from your life, I can guarantee you it is spirituality and its dependence on your Lord, and acknowledging the blessings that your Lord has given you. And it's interesting because one of my favourite sheikhs, Sheikh Yusuf, he says that people are spiritually starving. And he's right. I so agree with him. And so I guess, and I'm sorry if you're one of those people, because I guess I've had that luxury, that privilege of always knowing that Islam is the truth, just feeling it in my bones. Because at the end of the day, no matter who you are, even if you live a good life and you live a long life, it's going to whiz by in a flash. You can look back to those days thinking, yeah, when I went to the bar and I had drinks, it was funny seeing someone get really drunk and do something silly. Or it was nice going on holiday with my friends, etc. But these things are all quite empty. If you do them a few times, you're going to yearn for more. And this is why people do yearn for more. And so I guess really, I'm sorry for those people who are feeling spiritually bereft. And if you're interested in Islam, as I said, there are many, wherever you are in the world, there are many resources available online. So just either Google Free Quran or speak to a Muslim that you know, or just pop into a mosque. But certainly I feel that in these dark days, and unfortunately I think days are going to get worse, days are going to get darker. And who can we depend on? We can only depend on our Creator. And so I don't know, just something to ponder about. I'm sorry that this podcast episode has gone on quite long as well, but I'm just trying to stop myself from talking. Otherwise, I would just literally ramble on and on, because it's just mind-blowing that eternity is endless. Essentially, it's just endless, whereas time is just this man-made constraint, and the days are whizzing by, the years are whizzing by, life is whizzing by. And I've heard sort of youngsters say that as well, and it's just incredible. So I don't know, isn't it worth investigating? Because at the end of the day, if I'm wrong and we're underground, fair enough. But if I'm right and you've just thrown away the entirety of eternity, it's a bit scary, isn't it? It's a bit scary. And on that point, I think I'm going to force myself to stop talking. So until the next episode, let's all create connection with ourselves and our Creator. If you are sort of wondering what to do with your life, if you're going through a tough time, just ask God to guide you. Literally, when you're going to bed tonight, just ask God for help and ask for His guidance. And until the next episode, let's all not just change lives, including our own, but let's save lives.